We are live. Give us just a couple minutes to get everything set up and then we'll get started. There's only 4 of you here to start, so hopefully a couple will start popping in, but give us just about 2 minutes to get everything ready. I am a little worried this might be chaotic today. All the pets are here and they're a little needy this morning, so let's see how that goes. Wish us luck. Gambarimasu. Julie BB says hi. Hi, Julie. I think we've got a question from you to answer here in my little notebook. So we've got our chat going. Everything seems to be set up smoother than usual. Are you ready?
Yeah. Y'all hear the cicadas?
Oh yeah, how is the sound quality with the cicadas screaming right outside our window?
I don't think it picks it up.
Hope not. Because it's such a constant, loud background noise. Oh, Prodigal Link says they're screaming for sure. Yeah, I guess I sort of just block it out, but it is like, it's just constantly there. As soon as the sun starts coming up. Jacqueline says, yes, I can hear them. Julie says, it's fine. Okay, well, there's nothing we can do about it, so we've got to go with it anyways. Prodigal Link says it's cute, so that's all right.
Boy, this reminds me of our first live stream when we were up in the attic. Must have been it.
That was probably over a year ago, our very first one, before we started doing it monthly. We let everyone choose which room of the house they wanted us to do the live stream in, and the community chose our attic, and boy, that was not a mistake. It was fun. It was just so hot. We were regretting that decision a little bit, but that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, well, we are 3 after, so let's go ahead and get started with our little format that we have been running with. So we're going to start off by talking about what we have done in the last month since our last live stream. So, Evie, you want to take the first topic, which is honeybees?
Yes. So last month when we did our live, we were still in the middle of harvesting, and that's completed. We surpassed our business plan goals by not a ton, but that's a really good marker for us.
Business plan goal for volume of honey harvested. So we still have a lot of jars to sell, but we did pass the business plan honey harvest goal.
Yeah. So if you want to help us out by purchasing some honey from our web store, there's a link through our YouTube channel, right?
Yep. We currently have citrus and wildflower available, so the orders that we're getting right now, which thank you for those. If any of you who have ordered honey are watching, thank you very much. A lot of the orders, almost all of the orders right now, people are getting the citrus and the wildflower so they can do a taste test. And I think we only have one honey customer who has, she also purchased the Sakura honey earlier in this year, and she saved some. So she was able to have all 3 honey flavors for a taste test. I'm pretty sure only one person got to do that. We didn't even get to do a side-by-side comparison of all 3 flavors, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so when we're thinking about maybe doing, packaging those 3 together to offer some honey flights in a little cute collector's box.
Yeah, that's an idea that we have for next year. Would be, where were we when we came up with that idea? We were driving somewhere?
We were coming back from somewhere. I don't remember.
Yeah, we were driving somewhere and we thought, hey, what if we saved a couple of the citrus and the wildflower So then next spring, which will be we won't harvest any honey until next spring, cherry blossom, we could package all 3 together in like one of those cute wooden boxes that the Japanese gifts traditionally come in. Let us know what you think of that idea, if you think that would be cool to have all 3 flavors. Would it be... it would be cool to have all 3 from one season, but would it be okay to do this year's citrus and wildflower and the next spring's cherry blossom so we could get it out there? The thing is with the cherry blossom being such a limited supply, it's either we use this year's wildflower and citrus and package it with next spring's cherry blossom, or we'd have to set aside that cherry blossom honey. So it's we're still figuring it out. Let us know what you think, if you think that's a good idea.
And then last week, I guess 2 weeks ago, I completed the splits. So we split our honey, we split our bees into twain. So we went from 25 colonies that we started with last year to now we have 40. And so, hopefully those 40 survive the winter and everything, and we'll be going into next year with 40 colonies. Mm-hmm. And I guess if any don't make it, we'll just buy them from our mentor to make up the difference. So
yeah,
not a huge deal, but hopefully that all goes well. So far it's looking good. They've got plenty of food, and we're moving into the dearth right now, which means the getting too hot for flowers. So we're gonna have to start feeding them. We're gonna go pick up a big load of our sugar from our mentor that is dyed blue, so that it when we feed it to them and they put it away in their comb, it's easy to tell it's sugar and we don't harvest it and get it mixed in with our honey. And then I also, just yesterday, in a grueling session in the middle of the day, I finished the last of our hornet traps. And then so they go over to the paint department today. And
that's my job today. I will be painting them.
Yeah, and then I guess that we need to, still need to get the screens on them. And then they actually have to wait until I have a confirmed queen in the colony, because the little gap is too small for the queen to get out. So, but we're not really in the hornet season quite yet, so it's nice that those are all ready. We're
That's kind of interesting. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that? How the queen can't squeeze through, and how she's got to get out and come back?
The queen's a little bit bigger than the worker, so the mesh that I have purchased is 5mm mesh, which is like 1/4 of an inch, and so it functions as a pretty handy queen excluder, and so it keeps her in there, which is actually, I guess, kind of good for swarming, but this isn't swarming season, so it doesn't apply. But yeah, so the queen needs to, when we get a new queen, she needs to go out and mate with the drones and then come back, and so I have to make sure that she has. So I have to check and confirm that there's eggs that she's laying in the hive before I put those traps on.
Oh, Marcus made it. Good morning, Marcus.
Julie says it's a great idea. Maybe smaller jars and a gift box. Yeah, that's what we're thinking, right?
Yeah. We gotta remember that, and we'll see if as we start selling the honey. I was thinking the small jars too, our smallest size, which is 140 grams. Do one of each flavor in a cute wooden box that has like our logo on it or something. But of course, the smallest size is the most popular being sold at the Michinoekis right now. And also, no, the larger ones are more popular on our website. So it seems like people who are ordering through the website are more likely to be stocking up on honey and getting the bigger jars. And then at the Michinoeki, the smaller jars are the ones that are being sold the quickest. So I'm assuming those are being picked up to be given as gifts from their travels. So those are probably mostly being sold to tourists on the Shimanami Kaido, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see the difference there, and knowing that they're, like what they're going for. It's good, like, market research to be able to sort of think about it that way. So people who are ordering from us specifically are ordering larger quantities than people at the farmers markets who are going to be giving them as gifts. So it's good, I guess. I guess that's good validation that our jar sizes are pretty good.
Like our allocation of jar
Yeah,
sizes?
yeah.
We were talking to our business consultant the other day. We had a meeting, and it turns out that our fiscal year for the company starts in July. And so the way it works in Japan is when you incorporate, you set a date for
August, July 31st.
August. So you incorporate your company on a certain date, and then that's the year that your financials all fall into. And since our big harvest is in June, we basically only have 1 month to show for on that. So when we do that, when we file our financial report for that year, it's actually the previous year, and so that we just kind of we just figured that out, So that's gonna impact our business plan that we have to submit to immigration. We're gonna basically move all of our numbers back 1 year or forward 1 year. I think forward.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to explain without having like a document to show. I've got a really cool spreadsheet that I made. For Jesse Cunningham is here.
It's my dog's butt.
Well. Hey, Bosco.
Yeah. So it makes sense though that just our harvest is in June and the end of our fiscal year is in August. So that means is it the end of August or the end of July?
End of July.
So it's the end
August 1st.
Yeah, so we only have 1 month to sell stuff, to sell our harvest before the time's up basically. So it's a bit inconvenient for us, but
yeah. So I've adjusted all of our internal spreadsheets to track the year because I like to track, the year. So the guest house opened in December. So my internal tracking of how the guest house is doing, I go from the beginning of December to the end of November, and that's my year for the guest house. But our fiscal year for the guest house, the first year, it would have started on August 1st, and then the guest house didn't open until December, and then ended at the end of July. So you only got December through July for the first fiscal year of the guest house, which is, I don't know, I don't want to say annoying, it's just a new way to think about it. So like we're thinking over the course of 2025, right? Like we're thinking in the year, we had 25 hives, we had this harvest, and then we're going to sell all those jars. Like that's obviously a lot easier to wrap your brain around than going, okay, August to August, because like, especially with us as beekeepers and harvesting the honey being so seasonal and being so close to the end of that it's like our honey sales for our fiscal year from August to August, well, what, did we only have 10 hives last year? So
yeah, 9.
Yeah, so we had our fiscal year 2024, 2025, we're only able to show honey harvest from 9 colonies last year, and then we have 1 month of sales from 25 colonies this year. So it's really confusing, and but our immigration lawyer is going to be able to explain that and show, I guess it'll make sense to immigration and the people who need to see these numbers. It's just something that we need to get used to as well when we're thinking about all of this business stuff that we don't really have a background in. Julie says
maybe that'll also be used for income tax, so less might be better. It's all going to be accounted for. It just gets accounted for basically on the next year's taxes, is the way we think about it. But what's interesting is they're just trying to play games with the numbers to make us look as good as possible for immigration. And so they were saying, our consultant was saying that... Yeah,
that's exactly, Julie, yes, you will show some inventory on your balance sheet. That's exactly what they were saying, yes.
And then we also, gosh, I can't remember how to explain it, but since
we will have 1,050 jars in our inventory on our balance sheet. Well, we sold a few, but...
Well, so he was saying that since the costs we have also the sales costs are also accounted for in our profit and loss statement for this financial for this financial statement. Sorry, this year. And so since that is going to be unsold, that's not going to count as sales cost. So that's going to lower our costs for the year, and therefore that's going to improve our bottom line essentially.
Yeah, and then we're able to, or they're able to calculate the potential sales of the 1,000 or so jars that we'll have in our inventory for next year. So that helps in some way with the accounting, or the value of the business is we're able to count those 1,000 jars of honey that we have in our inventory that we hope to sell in the next few months, or at least over the winter or so. We should plan to sell out of that. So that's able to be counted as our business's value, I guess. So we can have that honey in reserves, which is like interesting, but also really boring. But yeah, Julie says exactly. So it's all new. It's new to us. I mean, I understand some of these topics like in theory, but as my history of self-employment and like doing taxes and budgeting is photography, so I don't have inventory to deal with as a photographer. I just sell a service, not a product.
To paraphrase Ron Swanson, I don't know how much money I have, but I know how many jars of money I have.
Yeah. Okay, so that does that cover honeybees? Or?
Yeah. So how about consultations?
So the last month, so going back to what we've done in the last month since our last live stream, we've been doing pretty well with the consultations calls, which is a nice little push right at the end of our fiscal year. So first, the big one is that we wrapped one real estate translation client. We're not going to say, their names or any personal information about them, but this is a long process. I think they initially hired us, gosh, I don't remember when it was. It's been quite a few months because their purchase was a long one. It involved 3 pieces of land, and one piece of land was residential, and 2 were
forest. One was farm, one was forest. Well, yeah.
No, it was 1 residential and 2 pieces of farmland. They converted one of the farm to forest land. They converted the other farm to residential in order for them to be able to complete the sale purchase. So that was a long process. Namoto-san with Shimanami Property, I almost forgot his business name. Shimanami Property is our local realtor that we work with, and he did a great job converting 2 pieces of farmland to residential and forest. So this foreign non-farming buyer was able to purchase that land, and clearly the land was not intended for farmland. It was literally, one of them was a bamboo forest, so being converted to forest land, and one of the one that was converted to residential actually had an illegally built structure on it. So it was clearly not being used as farmland. So it was the correct choice for this buyer to be able to have Namoto-san go through the lengthy process of getting it converted to residential and forest land. So that was cool to see, because that's one thing that, if you believe everything that you read on the internet, people are going to tell you you can never ever buy farmland unless you're a farmer and you go through the process of, and yeah, it is very, very difficult to buy, and we don't recommend that. It's a super complicated process that can end with some issues and leave a lot of people unhappy if you are unsuccessful in purchasing farmland. But people will tell you that it's impossible to convert farmland to anything else, and that is just not true. It's just very difficult and time-consuming. So I thought that was really interesting. It was cool to see the process. It was complicated, and we should probably be charging more for that service of the translation, but it was really cool to sort of see behind the scenes and get to see that process. We also had 2 of our video calls plus 1 follow-up call with consulting clients who are interested in doing the startup visa. Those are great. We love doing those. It's a good chance just to meet people and talk to people and hear their ideas. And it's also 2 of the 3 consultation calls are possibly coming to this specific area. So it's also an opportunity to just meet, be the first ones to be like the welcome wagon to Ōmishima and help them with the beginning of their lengthy process. So that's kind of cool.
Can we give some idea what their ideas are?
Yeah, of course we don't want to give any personal information away. I don't know, is it bad to say what their business ideas are?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay,
People want to know. It's just,
yeah, maybe just talk a little bit about it. Yeah.
Well, I don't remember exactly. One coffee shop. One couple wanted to open a coffee shop. Another guy wants to do coffee import from Mexico, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, those are the 2 possibly looking to come to this area, which is really serendipitous. So we also might be able to not only connect with these 2 people, but connect these 2 people to each other. So it's obviously, where they're both in the very beginning planning stages. But it's just really, it's cool. It's.
What's the third one? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I'd have to look at the calendar.
Okay.
They were not coming here.
Okay. Oh, I don't remember. Yeah, there.
So we do have a question from Jesse. Which aspect of your business is your largest source of revenue? That's a good question. So the reason that we started with the guest house, our first 6 months or year was focused entirely on getting the guest house off the ground, renovated, up and running, and hosting guests. And so right now, the guest house is still our largest source of revenue. And our second year is great. It's second year is more than our first year, which is of course what you want to see. But in the future, because we've had to make up to a 10-year business plan for immigration and for various other reasons, in the future, we're forecasting that honey will be our biggest source of income, but it takes time to build up to that, a lot more time than the guest house. So for now, the guest house is our main source of revenue. And that brings us to our next topic, actually. So what we've done the last month. So July, this month that we're ending right now, this is actually our 3rd highest revenue month for the guest house. But it actually hasn't been crazy for me because we've had a number of longer stays, including one 2-week guest who is here right now. So I've been going in and doing a little bit of intermittent cleaning and helping, taking out garbage and that sort of thing, but I have not been doing a full guest house turnover every single day like I was for basically the entirety of March, April, and May. So that's cool. That's obviously that's great. It's great for me for July to be able to be the 3rd highest revenue month, but because we've had long stays, it actually hasn't been as excessive amount of work almost every single day.
Yeah, we need to figure out how to get more long stays, huh?
Yeah, it's really nice. And we do have, our guest house is very much set up for 1, 2, 3, or 4 night, the sort of like week or less stays. If we start continuing to get more long-term stays, which we're not forecasted to. All of our upcoming bookings are still 1, 2, and 3 nights. But if we do, there are definitely some changes to the guest house that I would want to make as far as taking care of garbage and recycling and that sort of thing. We had a lot more long-term stays in New Orleans when we had our Airbnb there at our house, and that place was just a lot more set up for it. And here we're really just...
I don't think we're going to have a lot of long-term stays.
I don't think there's a lot of... I don't think we are either. I think this month is an exception.
I don't think there's a lot of people coming to Ōmishima for that length of time.
Not yet, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, maybe if there's more coffee shops and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Julie says, wow, a 10-year business plan seems excessive. Yeah.
It all seems excessive. It all seems excessive.
Yeah. Well, it's not required for immigration, but since we had to make the 10-year business plan for the subsidy that we are still in the process of applying for, we just said, well, we have the 10-year business plan made, so now I think our immigration lawyer is just going to keep using that.
Yeah, that's what our business consultant said. He just, since we were preparing, what was it, 2 or 3 years for immigration?
3 or 5.
Okay.
5 years. So we went from a 5-year to a 10-year.
Yeah, so now we have a 10-year plan. We're going to use that.
Might as well, since we've done all the work for it and forecasting. And we just started the initial process of getting ready for our upcoming visa renewal, which our visas right now are good until basically the end of the year. So we're going to spend a couple of months getting ready for our next submission, and we'll be submitting that in October or November ahead of the deadline. So the next couple of months we'll have more paperwork. We've had a reprieve from paperwork for a while, and we'll be getting back to that. Okay. Oh, and for the guest house, we also did we had the fire department and the fire alarm inspector out, which is something that we have to do annually, and we passed our test, so that was good. Let's see, Benton Homestead, end of fiscal year. That also means it is our second business incorporation birthday.
Wow.
You want to show them our presents that we got?
How do we do this?
Turn around. We're wearing our presents that our business consultant and our accountant generously made for us. So up here it says something like we're celebrating 2 years. And then this is Evan's name here. So they made us matching shirts for our celebration, which is pretty cute. Pretty cute.
Super cute.
Yeah. So Marcus says it's the same in Ōmishima. A lot of quick stays before people do the Shimanami Kaido. Now and then they will have people stay for a while, and at least one guy that was more of a lodger, 2 to 3 years. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah. In New Orleans, the longest we got was like 4 months. And we actually bought a bigger fridge for her, remember? We had like a teeny tiny mini fridge because nobody used our fridge. You always go out to eat, of course. And yeah, we had quite a few longer stays. Julie sent a birthday cake. Thank you. Yeah, 2 years. So we've been here 2.5 years, and Benton Homestead has officially been a Japanese corporation for 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, in 4 days.
In 4 days, yes. Let's see. Then Evan also took his JLPT test, the N2 level, and of course we have to wait a long time to get those results.
I don't think I passed. It was grueling, I guess, for most of the answers.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. If you remember, he passed the N3 without studying, and then he took the N2 and He doesn't feel good about it. We'll see. Wish us luck. Wish Evie luck. We had a cute little article published in a magazine called Escape Artist, and that was probably one of the best experiences that we've had with a journalist. She was just super nice, and I think she wrote a great little piece about it. I think she wrote a great piece, and we might actually... She was so nice, and she emailed me again after the story was published and said that she just really loved our story and she really enjoyed working with us. And so we might actually be getting some of our Mexico travel photos also published in their publication. So Escape Artist is, apparently it's the longest running and #1 publication for expats and digital nomads and people living outside of their home country. So the website's really pretty. It definitely looks like a quality publication. So that was cool. That was just a surprise. She interviewed us, and then it just came out a couple days later. So usually you have to wait a long time.
Oh, and we had we got interviewed by some students from Hiroshima University.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They came out to our guest house, and they're studying hospitality or tourism,
Yeah.
something like that, and they're going to give a presentation on us
this week.
This week, yeah.
Yeah. That's cute.
Yeah.
They were really nice kids.
Also, our business consultant said that he is writing a article on us for his trade magazine, I guess, for his association. And it's a competition, so if he wins that competition, then he gets invited to Tokyo to give a presentation on us. So that would be a cool little feather in his cap. And we are pioneers here. We're the first people doing this. So
yeah, it seems like weird to say that, but I mean, I guess we are.
We are. There's no I guess about it. It's just,
yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. If I had known how few people had actually done this when we started, I would have been a lot more nervous about it. What was the statistic with the startup visa? It was a statistic from late 2024, so it's not a
700 people had applied and 300 people were successful in transitioning to the business manager visa, something like that.
Yeah, something like 50%. So only 700 people had ever received a startup visa, and then roughly 50% of them had successfully gone from startup to business manager. It's wild. So Jesse says, your business seems to be growing nicely and in maybe different directions. Many different directions. What does the ideal end goal after 10-year plan look like? Sorry if this is impossible to answer. Well, yeah, it was really hard for us to project 10 years in the future. We have all kinds of ideas and all different things that we want to do, and some of them sound a little wacky, or like, how do you put them on paper? How do you really plan out 10 years in the future? So some of it just involved, so for the honeybees, we basically just did the incremental increasing of the number of hives, and then our business consultant did the math and figured out okay, if you have that many hives, and then you're going to get that many jars of honey based on these figures that I found for honey production in Ehime Prefecture. So he sort of helped us with that, coming up with basically each facet of our business. We just figured, we can increase to a certain point, and then it sort of levels out, because we can't just increase honeybees every year. We're just going to run out of space and time, and as we saw with 25 colonies this year, that was pretty labor intensive for just the two of us, and next year we're going up to 40. So what do you want to say?
Well, yeah, the 10-year plan, I wouldn't, I don't want to be held to that because it was sort of coming up with stuff. I mean, I think it's reasonable, but, you know, it was just sort of like, well, in such and such a year, we're going to buy a second guest house, and then we're going to hire someone. So it's sort of it's pretty loosey-goosey, and it was for the purposes of, mainly we were trying to show how much this subsidy that we're applying for is going to impact our sales. So we're going to get more money by receiving this money was what the whole point of the 10-year business plan was for.
And the retro shop. The retro shop was on there.
Right, yeah. So for me, my reason for getting into agriculture is basically, you know, health and trying to you know, provide food that is healthy for people. And so that's pretty, you know, that's pretty broad of a concept. And I always have wanted to be more of a generalist, like, you know, farmer. And the beekeeping was just what we went with for the purposes of immigration. Really, we had to have like a more streamlined business plan because, yeah, the way that, I mean, it's hard to talk to people about farming, and it's especially hard to talk to like politicians or you know, bureaucrats about farming because God bless them, like not a lot of people understand what is going on with just like putting stuff in the ground and taking it out of the ground a few months later, you know. And so the long story short is, I guess, like the human ecosystem of that, not just like what you grow, but how you grow it, and that includes finding people to grow it. And so I'm really trying to, we've been talking about this a lot, but just wrap my brain around the idea of hiring people. And I am looking at building out some sort of a, you know, a framework for that, where we're getting to hire people. And then once we start hiring people, I mean, I want to hire, this sounds crazy, but I want to hire as many people as we possibly can. And I want to just get to a point where I can really step back and just focus on management and focus on the intellectual side of things. That's what I'm really interested in. I really would like to just be, you know, reading books and coming up with like experiments for how to test these various theories of how to grow crops and food more efficiently, and then get to teaching that to other people and getting that out there. So a big part of it is like motivation. The money is not there in a lot of cases, even with organic farming, which is such an outlay. So I'm thinking about ways that we can basically, what we can offer to people is we can alleviate the risk. Since we're the pioneers, we're the ones taking on the risk, and if we can get some capital together to, you know, to also put that out front for people to take advantage of, that's basically, these are all, you know, very nebulous concepts that I'm talking about. But basically, my end goal, my ideal goal would be to just hire as many people as possible to produce as much food as possible on this tiny island. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like from a business standpoint, you know, it's, I think we talked about this in the live stream, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's something we're trying to figure out how to do. Is, well, you know, two people can do so much work, but then if you hire, say, two more people, you know, then it's that much more income. And Julie mentioned the word showing scale. So it's like, yeah, if you have to spend money to make money, and so then if you're hiring people and having them, you know, delegating certain tasks to them, then that frees up your own time to do more. And so it's just a matter of one, of course, having, you know, enough in the bank to be able to pay people, and then two, like just figuring out what those people, what's the best use of time to hire someone. So then what's the best use of our time versus employees? So that's something we're trying to figure out, and we don't have, you know, really any experience with that. But feel like we're already at that point. Just the amount of work that we're doing for our small business is not sustainable. So we're already like at that point, and now we just have to figure out how to do it and how to pay for it. Yep, that's where we're at. And in the last month, we passed 5,000 subscribers, so that's just a little milestone there. Still a very small channel, so you know, we really appreciate all of you guys that show up to all these live streams and are regulars and comment on our videos. So you know, a really small community, but we really appreciate the core community who's always here for us. And
oh yeah, we were supposed to mention too that since we still have, this is still part of our fiscal year, right?
yes,
So we were supposed to, if you want to help us get through this fiscal year, any donations that you want to make, any super chats during this live stream count towards that. So,
or buy me a coffee, or honey sales up until anything that is any business income between now and July 31st still counts for this fiscal year, which it's always a good time to buy honey or anything like that, but particularly the next 4 days will be extra helpful for our next visa renewal. And let's see, Julie said, from a business plan perspective, it is mostly about cash flow. Yeah, that makes sense. And Jessie says, beautiful goal. Thank you for answering my impossible questions. Yeah, happy to chat. And we also did a few fun things. We made time in the month of July. We had 3 friends from New Orleans come visit. It was their first time visiting Japan, and they were adventurous enough to get out of the main 3 cities that most tourists go to their first time in Japan, and they came out to the countryside to see us. And it was great. We rented bikes, we did the cycling thing. We didn't do the whole route, of course, but we went over one bridge. So we crossed one bridge over to Ikuchi-jima and went to Sunset Beach and went swimming and then rode back. So we got to do some tourist things while they were here.
thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. A cool thing about their trip that I'd really, you know, I haven't really been involved. Well, I guess I have sort of been involved in tourism, but I don't know how to get the word out that there's a really good opportunity with the islands and the bridges to do a big loop when you're visiting, so you don't have to actually backtrack. There's a lot of people, a lot of guests at the guest house. So the easiest way is they're coming from Tokyo or from Osaka or Kyoto, and they hop on the Shinkansen, and then they ride their bikes down the Shimanami Kaido. And a number of them actually then, when they're done, when they reach Imabari, they get on a bus and they go back up, and then they take the train back. And there is another loop. We were just talking to someone the other day, and they said after the Shimanami Kaido, they took the train south and then back up the different bridge. So that's one good loop possibility. But when our friends from New Orleans came to visit, we had them, so they arrived by the Shinkansen from Kyoto, and then took the bus here, and then when they left, we drove them south to the overnight ferry that takes you from just south of Imabari all the way to Osaka. So they were able to do a loop, so they skipped Osaka before our trip, so they did Tokyo, Kyoto, Ōmishima, and then they went straight to Osaka and then back to Tokyo to catch their plane out. So I thought that was cool. They had a great experience with the overnight ferry. Yeah, so I just think that's one really cool way to do it. And we also took one night and went to visit our friend Coco Lencho Japan, if you're familiar with his channel. Tell him about that.
Yeah, we drove across, we took the ferry to, there's a chain of islands to the west of us that is almost all connected with the bridges, and you just have to take one ferry hop over to it. That's called the Ōmishima Tobishima Kaido. Yeah, and that was a really nice drive over to Yamaguchi Prefecture. And yeah, we had a lovely time with Lawrence and Chiyoko. They made us some delicious birria.
It was great.
And we got to see that bridge. I can't remember what it's called. I've heard the name so many times, but the famous bridge that's built that goes like this.
Yeah.
In Iwakuni.
In Iwakuni, yeah, that beautiful bridge. So he took us sightseeing
and their house is really great, and I don't know, it sort of inspired me in a lot of ways because their contractor had just basically gutted the whole thing, and it's a traditional Japanese house. There's these, well, you can see it here, this beam here that goes across the top. This is a window, not a door, but it's the same beam that goes across the door, and this is where it hits me right here every time I enter. So this is a real, it doesn't bother Danny, but yeah, this in the guest house too, it's just a real one of the worst problems of living in a Japanese house, and they've gotten rid of those. And I'm not saying we're going to totally get rid of ours. We can raise them up if we wanted to and build new doors.
Because they're not structural. They're huge pieces of wood, so they look like they're possibly structural, but they're actually not.
Yeah. But so what they've done is they've gotten rid of almost all the traditional tatami. They have one tatami room, and they've just gutted the whole thing and brought up the ceilings all the way to the top. And they even put in some new massive beams to shore up some of the places where they seemed like they needed it. But yeah, so it just turned it into a great, like, airy kind of modern space, and it really kind of blew my mind because since we've been doing all of these house tours for people, consulting, we've seen a lot of Japanese houses, and a lot of them are, beautiful on the outside, but just kind of dark and cramped on the inside. And so to realize that every single one of these Akiya has like a reasonable modern space hiding inside was really a revelation to me.
Yeah, and they did a good job. You can go check out their videos. They have videos covering the whole renovation process, and as inside as well as outside. They've also done a really great job.
Landscaping.
Landscape. Yeah. They've done so much work. They've moved land around and built a water feature and all kinds of stuff. They've got great videos on Coco Lencho Japan channel, and yeah, just a beautiful job. But they didn't gut the whole thing. They kept a lot of historical pieces of the beams and the structure, and they kept a lot of that visible. And so it's really an interesting mix of like really bright and airy and modern, and then they also have you can clearly see the history of the house. I thought they did a really good job incorporating all of that, and just lots of beautiful wood. Even though it's a more of a modern layout, it's just got the.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of ideas for what we can do.
Yeah, it's beautiful, just really beautiful. And then they have a really cute. They realized in their floor plan changes that they made that they only had one bedroom really, so then they turned one of their outbuildings into like a guest room, second bedroom, which was adorable. So,
which is where we stayed.
Yep. And
it was air conditioned.
Air conditioned, unlike here. I don't know if you can tell, we're sweating right now. I keep wiping my face because we can't have our fan on while we're doing the live stream. So, how's that?
Thank you.
Okay, so that moves to, feel free to send questions. We do have some questions, but real quick, we're going to run through what's coming up in the next month. So not as many notes as what we've done last month, which is nice. Next month should be super duper hot. So, it's been hot. It's going to continue to be hot. So we're hoping that we won't have quite as many tasks to be doing constantly. So this month we are preparing for it to continue to be crazy hot and humid, and we're preparing for hornet season to begin. We're preparing our end of the fiscal year financial paperwork, which means after August 1st, we wait for some things to come through that was income for July, and then we'll be working with our accountant and getting our wrap-up complete, as well as our inventory, and then using those documents to do some initial paperwork prep for our next visa. And, oh, that's funny. I was just going to say our NHK show will be airing, and Julie says, hey, by the way, I saw an NHK video about famous towels made in your area. That reminded me of all the gift boxes you found in the house. Yeah, we did find a lot of Imabari towels. We have a towel museum in Imabari. Our area is known for luxurious, soft, fluffy towels. And our NHK show will tentatively be airing this month. The producer, or the videographer, on behalf of the producer, said that we can't say the name of the show that we're going to be on yet, and we can't announce the air date until 7 days prior, because they could have last-minute scheduling changes. So potentially this month we're going to be able to announce what show came out to film our honey harvest for NHK, and then we'll also be able to announce a week ahead of time when that's going to air on the NHK World channel. So We're pretty excited for that. It's going to be NHK World is Japan's national TV show that airs mostly outside of Japan. It is aired in Japan. Not everybody in Japan has access to NHK World channel, but it will also be on their NHK World YouTube channel. So people within Japan can watch it on YouTube, and people outside of Japan can watch it on YouTube or on the NHK World channel if you have access to that. So we'll keep you posted. Unfortunately, we still have to be vague and mysterious about it. And we also found out that remember when CNBC came out and filmed that little episode for us? It was a TV show called Unlocked, which is part of a show called CNBC Make It. And that aired on their CNBC YouTube channel, but they contacted us recently and said that they want that to air. They got...
On television?
Yeah, they want it to air on the CNBC television because their TV show Unlocked got picked up for a second season. So they've chosen our episode as one of the episodes to air for the second season. But we don't know when that'll be. I don't even know if it'll be this year. We have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure TV takes a long time to get those things scheduled. So we are still waiting to hear back when that will air too. But that'll be pretty exciting. So that wraps up last month and next month. And so now we can move on to some of the questions that we got ahead of time. So let's start with Darren sent us a super chat before the live started, and he had a question regarding honeybees. So Darren, our friend Darren, would like to know, Evan, why
horizontal hives?
Why horizontal hives? Does it have to do with honey yield or space? And why do you prefer horizontal hives over vertical hives?
Yeah, thanks for the super chat and the question, Darren. And so, because Darren is thinking about doing bees where he's at in Nagano, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if he has any bees yet, but...
Not yet.
I highly recommend horizontal hives over the traditional Langstroth hive. And it's basically a question of the honeybee health. So not necessarily yields, but it's going to, in theory, it's going to decrease the beekeeper's workload. because you're not going to have to spend as much time looking after the bees. But it's a long answer, and Tonkin's asleep back there. So I would just say that the benefit of the Langstroth hive, the sole benefit is really just the removable frames, and what that does is that lets you observe the bees, and that's a historical development because it wasn't available. You weren't able to pick up a frame and look at it and then put it back in the hive until Langstroth came along with that design, which was in the 1850s or something like that. And so the box itself is not really, beyond that, there's nothing really innovative about it. And just the other thing that is good about it is that 4 of them will fit on a pallet that fits perfectly on the back of a flatbed truck. And so that's why they use them in North America particularly, is because they're portable. And so that is all you're getting out of the Langstroth hive. And then of course the fact that all of the equipment is standardized for those, so you can very easily get stuff for them like extractors and queen excluders and etc. So the fact that it's horizontal just means that the frames are all in one box that's long, and so instead of having to take boxes off to get to the boxes underneath, all you do is crack open the lid and you're handling one frame at a time instead of handling an entire box. And so a frame can weigh like, I don't know, 20 pounds, but a box can weigh 10 times 20 pounds, right?
Yeah, when we were harvesting, when you have 10 frames full of honey, they are so heavy.
Yeah. So that's a big that's a big sort of hard limit on beekeeping, is like when you get older, a lot of people just quit because they can't schlep the boxes around. But yeah, so that's just the horizontal aspect of it, and that's all that really does. But because you're not moving the bees, that opens up a whole new venue of possibilities for improving how the bees can interact with that box. And I think the biggest thing is just insulation. There was a paper that came out in 2023, and it's it's disputed, but everything's disputed, because this is not hard science. Like, beekeeping is not a hard science, so you got to be humble with these things. It's all theoretical. But basically they found that in the winter, when the bees huddle together, they form these balls. That's actually a stress mechanism. They're actually too cold, and they're trying, all the bees essentially it was thought that they're coming together and like vibrating and generating heat, and that that is happening. But what's really causing that to happen, what's causing them to come together, is basically just the bees on the outside of the cluster are trying to compete and get to the center of it where it's warmer, and then they get stressed out and tired, and then they have to go back to the outside of the cluster again. So it's really just this process of bees trying to get to the center, getting overwhelmed by other bees, and getting pushed back out, and then just over and over again. And it's really bad.
So what you're saying is they thought that this was just, beekeepers thought that this was a normal behavior, and then we only recently found out that it's a stress behavior.
Well, they thought that it is a normal behavior, but they thought that it was a beneficial behavior. They thought that it was like an adaptive behavior to help them get through the winter. And so, if a bee nests in a tree trunk, think about how thick a tree trunk is, and then the box, the typical Langstroth box is like 3/4 of an inch, I think, and so that's just not giving you any insulation. So with a horizontal hive, so of course just being horizontal doesn't make it have insulation, but since you're not moving it around, you can design it.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
so you can design it with insulation. So I'll be designing it to have, a double layer, like wood, and then some sort of insulation, and then wood on the outside. And then also it'll have a much thicker lid that will keep that has to do with the frames too, but heat rises, and so when you don't have anything on top of the frames, the heat just escapes out of the top during the wintertime. So we put styrofoam insulation on top, and I think that really helps. But what I'll be doing is just completely closing that off. The frames will actually butt up against each other at the top, which is another difference between the Langstroth. But then also I'll have a roof, that will protect it from the summertime heat. So it'll be, the idea is honeybees basically function like little air conditioner units. So if you have the thermal decoupling, I think it's called, if you have like a break between the outside world and the inside world where the heat is not able to be transmitted across to bridge that gap, then they're really capable of maintaining the temperature at the right within the right ranges. But yeah,
super interesting.
So it's not about ventilation; it's about thermal decoupling.
Yeah, and we will still use all these hives that we built. Obviously, we have 40 traditional Japanese style Langstroth hives, so all that work is not going to go to waste, but the hives that he starts building this winter for next year's expansion, when we reach this time of year next year and we get into next year's split season, future hives are going to be the horizontal hives. So perhaps eventually we will, maybe we'll sell these Langstroth hives, or eventually we'll get over to all horizontal hives. But the cool thing about that is that in that transition period, we'll have 40 Langstroth hives to compare to your horizontal hives. So it is honestly like, I know you want to go like straight to Langstroth or horizontal hives, but it is a cool opportunity to have the hive comparison.
Yeah, somewhat. We're probably not going to expand at this point though until the goal for right now is going to be to transition over to horizontal hives from Langstroth. So we're not probably going to expand much more above 40 until we get all to horizontal, because I guess again, just to answer your question, Darren, the biggest thing is as I'm going through it, like during the swarm season, the amount of time it takes to take a box off. To take when you get up to 3 boxes, and you're having to take, you don't have to go through each frame on the top boxes because that should be honey and not brood, but it just adds so much time to your work.
That makes sense when you're going through during swarm season and you're hunting for queen cells.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is just the Japanese. I just made a video about that, so go back and check it out with the Japanese hives. But the Japanese hives have like a lip. So the American Langstroth hives are just flush. They just sit on top of each other, and the bees propolize them to glue them together, so they don't blow over. But in the Japanese one, there's like a lip, like so the top fits onto the bottom like that, and it keeps it in from getting blown over, and it's super sturdy for transportation. But you just squish a lot of bees, and it's inevitable because you can't see. So every time you
brush them off.
Every time I do it, every time I take a box off, I do my absolute best to use the smoker to get them to scurry back inside, and I try and brush them off to get around them. But you just can't see the bottom of the box, and I can't pick up the box and look at it to see if they're in that lip. And worst case scenario is the queen is there, which didn't happen this year. It's going to be pretty rare because she usually stays on the frames. But
that's not guaranteed.
Yeah. So, but you just want to. So the whole thing with horizontal hives is it's just the best possible environment for the bees, and it's also a heck of a lot better working conditions for the human.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would say
that makes sense, because I think with your time allotment, you were checking every single frame of every single hive every 4 days, and so if you weren't having to move all those boxes, and instead you were just lifting the lid, and then you could access all the frames. I never really thought about it like that. I know we talk about this a lot, but I never really thought about how much the horizontal hives would help your time management in addition to the bees and the saving your back.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've told me that, but it never really clicked as far as how switching to horizontal hives could actually help us increase the number of hives with the same workload as far as your time during swarm season.
Right.
That's cool. Now, Jesse says, will you start selling queens?
I don't think so. One downside to using horizontal hives is going to be that no one else uses them in the area. So, I'm not going to be able to sell nukes because I'm going to be using. Well, so this is a different part of it. You can make a horizontal Langstroth hive. You can take the exact same take the exact same Langstroth hives, which are like a horizontal, or sorry, they're about this size, this shape right there.
Rectangular.
But they're wider than they are tall, and you can just put those in a horizontal box that's long, and they usually have like 30 or so. But what I'm planning on doing as well is I'm going to be using the lay-ins frame, which is taller than it is long. It's about like that, and so that just uses different equipment, and so I'm not going to be able to when you take a split, when you do a split, you just take the frames out and put them in a new box, and they make their own queen. And so those two things are not compatible. So that is unfortunate. But what people do as well is they'll take a queen.
Well, because you can sell the queens like in the U.S. You can
do tiny nukes. You can do tiny nukes with like half-size frames too, like 5 half-size frames. So we could do that too. We'll see. I'm very interested.
I'm sorry, but don't they just sell queens like in a little vial with a couple of worker bees? You can like just order a queen.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in doing that. But we'll see. I am interested in breeding. I would like to, again, like I mentioned at the beginning with the goal, that was your question, Jesse, the goal of our business. I would like to be working sort of like just at the top of like a pyramid structure of farmers and like beekeepers. So I would like to be doing the breeding, like that involves, I've just been reading a little bit about it. That involves like a morphological assessment, like you're using a microscope and you're measuring the sizes of, it's like phrenology. You know what phrenology is? It's like phrenology, but for insects, to be using those tools to figure out what kind of traits, the relationship between the physical, size of the various bee parts and those traits. It's pretty interesting. But I would like to get to where I'm sort of like overseeing a whole like breeding program eventually. So we'll see.
Now, shifting temporarily, we got a comment that says, I admire your content. I discovered you through your videos in Mexico. Is there anything you miss from there?
Oh, yeah.
Many things, yes. We love Mexico still. Just, we spent a lot of time and a lot of thought deciding between whether or not we want to settle permanently in Mexico or Japan. And because we chose Japan, that doesn't mean that we don't love Mexico, because we still have a lot of love for Mexico, and not really prepared to talk about yet, but we did begin the process almost 5 years ago now to get permanent residency in Mexico, and we currently have temporary residency, which lasts for 4 years. So our goal, our long-term goal, is to get permanent residency in Mexico. It's a much more streamlined process than getting permanent residency here in Japan, which can take 10 years or more. We haven't even gotten close to starting getting permanent residency in Japan. However, we are on track to get permanent residency in Mexico, and that's just sort of our, I don't know, like retirement plan, I guess. We love Mexico. We're currently in negotiations with a couple living in Mexico, from Mexico, who are looking to move here, and so Evan has wanted to look towards, import-export. How do we bring a little bit of Mexico to Japan? And, we made empanadas for the festival for the first time earlier this year, and we've been invited to another festival. And when Evan told them that we were thinking about just selling honey, they were like, oh, we would really like some Mexican food. So we're working towards ideas to bring Mexico to Japan. But we still want to maintain our connection with Mexico as well. So possibly the most straightforward way is, we imported a bunch of hot peppers. And so we have pepper fields growing, and our plan initially was to make hot sauce. We have experience making hot sauce back in Portland and New Orleans, and so we thought one thing we would love to add to our business is growing our own peppers and making Benton Homestead Ōmishima hot sauce. but of course we've run into some hurdles with the commercial kitchen licensing process here, and it, again, like many of our plans, just comes down to getting the funds for it. So there's not a share kitchen option available like we sort of assumed there would be. Like in the US, you can just go rent a share kitchen and make commercial products to sell, and it's not exactly that easy here. So we would need to have an investor or save up to be able to get our own commercial kitchen space, which wouldn't need to be very big. I don't think it would even be a huge investment. We just don't have the funds for that. But as soon as we do, as soon as we can get a commercial kitchen, that's our next big expansion area. Because our initial plan here was honey and hot sauce, and so we got the guest house going, we got the honey going.
Now we got to get the hot sauce going.
Now we got to get the hot sauce going.
And I think that's going to be a big opportunity for growth and expansion. And back to our big goal. So yeah, I didn't mention that during our big goal, but yeah, and we want to have a Mexican restaurant too. But so my thought with that is, in addition to producing our own peppers, for that it's also a way that we could incentivize local farmers by giving them an avenue to sell their produce. So like what I'd like to do ideally is I would be breeding in the peppers and supplying the farmers with those seedlings, and then they would basically be selling it back to me.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, before we jump into the different topic, Julie says there's a YouTube channel from Hokkaido that uses a share kitchen, so it is possible if difficult. Yeah, well, and
it's Imabari City. Our city is who we have to talk to get the license. So I'm sure it varies just based on the city.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So many things in Japan are different depending on which city and prefecture you're in. But what we have been told here, I don't want to talk about it too much, but is that we contacted 2 local restaurants who have a number of days each week that their kitchen is closed. And they were both very excited about the opportunity to...
oh, wow. Thanks, Brackman. High five.
Oh,
Brackman.
Holy cow. Wow, thank you so much. That's really awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I think I know who that is. Yeah, feel free to say who you are if you would like, but... That's really awesome of you. Thank you so much. What was I saying? Oh, the share kitchen. So basically what we were told, both of those restaurants went to the health department to try and find out
how to do it.
How to do it, because they would love to have us rent their kitchen on days that they're not using their kitchen. And they were told, both of them were told by the health department that in order to do that, they would be assuming all responsibility for any products that we made in their kitchen. And that's just way too much liability to ask someone to take on. So, yep, that's what I thought.
Likes to party, huh?
Party.
Party hard.
Thank you so much. That's really awesome. Thanks for popping over here. Really appreciate it. Wow, I'm flustered now.
You're flustered.
I'm flustered.
Well, okay. I don't know how to answer this question that we got about weather preparedness, how to reinforce homes against natural weather and other phenomena. I don't know if I really do have a lot of thoughts. We're going to talk about...
Yeah, that goes along with another question that we got ahead of time.
We're going to talk about that with a question that we already received.
We could just jump into that.
Sure.
So thanks for your question, Diversity Love. And that goes along with a question that we got on Instagram from Bobster. And so the question is, how do you handle summer in a traditional Japanese house? And more specifically, he asked, how do you stay cool? How does it affect what you're growing in your garden? How does it affect your bees? And do you still get honey in the summer? So that's a lot of questions. But starting with, how do you handle summer in a traditional Japanese house?
So, well, first I feel compelled to note that it's not as hot here as it is in New Orleans.
That's true. However, they can't see, right? But if I could pan the camera over, so we have our windows and doors just wide open, and we can't have our fan on during this chat. We don't have air conditioning in our house because it's still basically 99% unrenovated. We haven't made any changes besides cleaning and organizing. So you probably can't see, but I am literally dripping sweat right now, and it's only 9:15. The cool thing about these houses is that, at least with our house design and the guest house, which does have air conditioning, of course, 100%, our guest house is way more comfortable than our house. The traditional Japanese houses are more designed to survive summers than they are winter. And so one example is the engawa, the hallway that goes along the outside of the house. All of our doors slide open, so basically the entire side of our house opens up to let the breeze in. So that is helpful. If we didn't have our engawa completely open right now, it would be like a sauna in here. It's maybe should I show it? Should I turn the camera?
Sure.
I can't see. Let's see. Yeah, so you can just see right outside. This is basically how we live in the summer. We just have our screens here that will need to be repaired at some point. We don't have washi paper on them, and then our engawa windows, doors are completely slid wide open. So,
and if we did
it's
have
challenging.
I don't know if you could tell, but we have the remains of a pond right there, and if we did have that pond, that would create a nice little microclimate with a big body of water that would cool it down. That's the south-facing window there, and we do have a wall right on the other side, so that actually cools stuff down because it blocks the sunlight. So there's a nice cool pocket right on our inside side of the wall. But we want to have babies, so we don't want to put a pond right in front of our door right there. But in the future, I think my plan is basically to put some trees, some nice trees there that'll shade us during the summer months, and that will help a lot.
Yeah, if we had a little more shade, it would be nice. But of course, obviously, like most traditional houses have been fitted with air conditioning in the modern day, so that's 100% how most people survive the Japanese summers. And because the air conditioning, like in the U.S., of course, houses that have air conditioning, most of them are like the full house units. And so every room is just going to have, I forget what the word is for that.
Central air?
Central air, yeah. And it's different here in Japan. Each room is going to have its own unit, and they're fairly reasonably priced considering the cost of central air in the U.S. Each unit we've paid for here is about $800 to $1,000, depending on the size of the room. So each room, you don't have to put air conditioning in each room. In fact, most Japanese houses don't have air conditioning in each room. Most of them do not have air conditioning in the laundry and bathroom, toilet room. You might not have air conditioning in some of your living rooms, but you're going to have an air conditioner in your bedroom that you can retreat to. So that's a possibility. So if we just had air conditioning in this room, for example, because we're just living in this one central room of the house that's in nice condition, we could have a cold cave that we can come retreat to. And we said last year that was our goal for this summer, but this summer we're saying that that's our goal for next summer. So that is the way I would say most most houses in Japan operate, right?
Yeah, older houses. They nowadays they kind of just build them like Western houses.
Yeah. It's a lot less of an investment than getting central air. I mean, I don't even know what the price would be to install central air into a traditional, like a regular Western style house. But here, if you just decide, I want air conditioning in my bedroom, it's going to be about $1,000. And then you're just going to have a unit, and it's going to have like the inside part of the unit, and then it's going to have an outside part that's like installed on your roof somewhere or outside the window. And then you'll have one cool room that you can hide in and save yourself. Let's see. So finishing that question before we jump over to these other ones. So that's. Do you have anything to add for how you handle summer in a traditional house? How do you stay cool?
Well,
you can hose yourself off.
You eat a lot of popsicles.
You can go to the onsen and sit in the cold pool. That's what I like. Because we don't have a shower, so when we have guests at the guest house, we go to the public bath to shower. Because obviously the kind of work that we do, we basically like sweat through our clothes every day working outside in this heat. So when we go to the public bath, of course it's a heated onsen, but they have a cold pool, and I tell you, when I sit in that cold pool, I never want to leave. I could just sit in the cold pool for an hour.
Yeah, it's really like room temperature pool, but...
It's room temperature pool, but it is nice. It is very refreshing. Very refreshing.
But so, in comparison with New Orleans, like, if you live in New Orleans, you got 2 a.m. and it's still, 80 degrees and 100% humidity. And also, if you in the shade, there's no relief in New Orleans. And so, at least here, if you go in the shade, it's cooler. And also, like, you have a couple of nice hours in the morning and a couple of nice hours in the evening. So I've been waking up at the crack of dawn and going and weeding. And then I also do my watering in the evening when it's cooler, and try and just stay out of the heat during the middle of the day. Try and find other stuff to do, and take naps, honestly. But
now at the guest house, which is also a traditional house that we've renovated and put some modern touches in for our guests, the way that we stay cool in that house is that you really use the architecture of the traditional houses to your advantage, because most walls are sliding screen doors, right? So a lot of times guests walk in and they say, oh, we got to open everything up, and they open everything up, and that actually is counterproductive. You can use those screens to your advantage. You keep them closed, and then you keep the rooms that have the air conditioning, you keep those screens closed, and that keeps your cold air in. And then like your doma, which is the front room of the house that you walk in, it's sort of like, in the West we'd call it a mud room. So you walk into the doma, that room might be really hot, but if the next room has an air conditioning unit, you keep the screen closed, separating the doma from the rest of your house, and then you use those traditional Japanese screen doors to keep the cool air where you want cool air. So eventually this house will operate like that too. So the guest house is nice. We now have 3 air conditioning units over there. Each bedroom has air conditioning. The kitchen is still a little warm, unfortunately. We're making it through this summer. We don't have an air conditioning unit in the kitchen. So when we opened, we had 2 air conditioning units, one in both of our downstairs bedrooms. Over the winter before this summer, we said we've got to get one upstairs. So we installed one upstairs, and we do still need one. Phase 3 is going to be getting one in the kitchen as well, because we've got 2 fans in there, and we've got a sort of like a mini swamp cooler, I guess, where it's like a fan that blows air over some water, and so it has like water-cooled air that it blows out. But it doesn't cut it. It's too warm in the kitchen. I don't like We haven't had any complaints, which is good, but I try very hard to keep the kitchen as cool as possible. But next year we will have an air conditioning unit in the kitchen as well. And that's another expense that you have to think of as a guest house host. And, it's a lot less expensive to keep the house warm in the winter than it is to keep it cool in the summer. So we'll see how much more our electric bills are this summer than last summer, since we have 3 air conditioning units now. And then next year we can plan for it to increase that much again, because then we'll have 4 units total in the house. And they are also beneficial, especially in the tatami rooms, because they have a dehumidify setting. And another thing you have to worry about in the summer is mold, and there's a word that's escaping me, mildew, appearing in your tatami, especially brand new fresh green tatami like we have. So last summer I left the dehumidify on basically 24/7. There was one point last summer that we didn't have guests for about a week, and I just said, well, I'm not going to run the air conditioning while we don't have guests, and that was a mistake. So I had some pillows, some floor pillows sitting on the tatamis, and after a week of no air conditioning, there was the beginning of a little bit of a mildew issue, which we resolved immediately, of course, but ever since then I've left the dehumidify on essentially all summer. The dehumidifier in the tatami rooms is going to stay on until probably the middle of October. Honestly, that's how long it was hot last year, right?
No, middle of October, the end of
End of September.
Oh, you said middle of October, yeah. Beginning of October, the end of September.
Yeah.
Should be nice by then.
Yeah. So that's another thing to think about as far as summertime in the traditional houses. Now the rest of the question is, I'm going to let you answer. How does the heat affect our garden and our bees?
Well, we're growing hot season crops, so peppers really don't care about the heat. Tomatoes are a little more finicky, but they're also pretty okay. We're trying to get it to grow cilantro, and that of course does not handle the heat at all. But so we're gonna have to sort of invest in like a overhead misting system, I think is what the commercial guys use. I was looking into it today, but and then the bees. I don't think it's that the heat affects the bees per se, but I think it just affects the flowers. It makes them stop producing honey. So we had a meeting at Waka, a hotel here, and they have a agave that's blooming. And the agave flower, we got there at like 10:30, and the agave was just a cloud of bees.
It was amazing. I took video of it. I'll post that later. It was so cool.
And then right behind the agave was a palm tree that was blooming, and that was also a swarm of bees. And then by the time we left, which was like noon or so,
11:30 or noon.
11:30 or noon, all the bees were gone. So I don't think that they get too over. I don't think they get overheated. I think that the pollen production just shuts down, or the honey production shuts down, like it evaporates, because the flowers use like relative, like ambient humidity, like dew. Dew is really important for the flower to. I don't know how it works with that type of thing, but there's something called the dearth that I mentioned earlier, which is when the flower is shut down, and then the bees have nothing to harvest from, so that's when you're giving them food. So that's how that affects the bees. I think Japanese honeybees do keep collecting honey through the dearth, because there is always still something blooming. But so yeah, I think in theory, if we got more into the Japanese honeybee side, we would be able to still harvest during that time. But yeah, we'll see about that.
So in other parts of the world, we would have like a summer harvest or a fall harvest. And so then just let Bobster know when our harvest is.
Yeah, so in the United States, where honey is sort of more of a commodity, they just sell honey, right? What you're going to do is you're just going to wait until the bees collect all the honey that they're going to get for that spring and summer, and you harvest basically when they stop bringing it in. So you just stack boxes on top of boxes until until you can tell there's no more nectar coming in, and that's when you do your harvest at the end of, usually it's around August in the northern hemisphere. And so we are doing like single varietal monofloral honey, and the biggest crop that we get is the citrus, which is in June. And so what we are doing is so another thing is, like, they'll do their splits early in the year because it's okay, because they can still keep building up bees and honey through the later. It's just viewed as one continuous harvest, basically, that they're just collecting and collecting and collecting out in the apiaries, and then they bring it all in at once. And we do it consecutively as there's something to harvest. So in the beginning of the year, the very first thing we get is the sakura honey. And then we get the cherry, or then we get the citrus, and then we finally do get a mixed flower honey right after the citrus, and then we're done. Mm-hmm. And so they are still bringing in stuff right now. Every time I go and check, they're flying in and out like this. They're making horizontal paths, so you can tell they're going out and getting something and bringing it back in. They're still pretty active, but it does seem like that is drawn to an end, and I'm probably going to put the feeders on this week or next.
So we have a couple questions, and then we'll go back to the ones that were asked before. I just don't want to let these ones pass.
Yeah.
So one quick one we can answer is Van Land Veneer. Hi guys, quick question. Is it true that you can purchase a property and use it as the office for your business as long as there are two separate buildings on the property? Now that is a tricky one, because the registered address of your business needs to be a different address than your private residence. So in our case, we are registered as living at the house that we live in. Around the corner is our guest house, and that address is our registered business address.
Yeah, so 2 addresses, 2 street numbers.
2 addresses. And the guest house was chosen, part of the reason that we chose that house, and it worked out very well, is that the guest house has 2 entrances. There's the main entrance to the house and the guest house, and then we have a second external entrance at the front of the building that goes just to a little office space, and that is our business headquarters office address. So our business office shares an address with our guest house, but it is a different street address than we are registered as living in. I have heard of people using 2 separate buildings as their house and their business address, but I don't know how that would work, because we were told that that we couldn't do that. So that might be one of those things that is location specific, as so many things in Japan, as we mentioned earlier. It could be, I don't know. I have heard that it might be possible. It might be location specific, but in our experience, that was not an option for us. So we have to have 2 separate registered addresses for our business and our residence. Okay. Hope that answers your question. I'm sorry that I can't answer with 100% certainty for all throughout Japan, but I can tell you our experience. So Diversity Love, we've got a couple comments about.
So shared kitchens, the issue with the shared kitchens in Imabari City, and again I think it's just Imabari City, is that you have to have the branding for the shared kitchen. Like if it were a shared kitchen, like if we have our hot sauce produced in our friend's kitchen, it has to say our friend's kitchen's name on the label. It cannot say Benton Homestead. So that just blows all that. Like you can't do it. You can't have such and such jam and just make it at a shared kitchen and such hot sauce and such pickles and whatnot. That just doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have something like, just brainstorm. You could have something like such and such jam produced at blah 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 share kitchen. Like that might work, but I don't know. As it stands with the law right now, it's just not an option.
Yeah, at least in our area. So we got 2 questions in a row that are just sort of like, it might be possible in a different part of Japan, but in our part of Japan, we've really, really tried everything to be able to use a share kitchen because we really, really want to be making hot sauce. Another thing that we pursued, another avenue that we pursued was one of our 2 Michinoeki locations here on the island has a kitchen that Michinoeki members can use, but
then we can only sell it at that Michinoeki location.
Only at that Michinoeki location. So we can make hot sauce there, right? Or what, like, I don't know if we could age it there. You can produce items there, put it into jars, put your label on it, but then it can only go onto that store's shelves. We can't even take it to the other Michinoeki, and we certainly can't take it and then sell it on our website. So it's very, very limiting, and unfortunately that location is not a very high traffic location. So if it was reversed and it was the high traffic Michinoeki location, maybe we would actually consider that and then only sell our hot sauce there, even though that would be, I don't know, but it's not. It's not a possibility for us to do that. There's not enough foot traffic there to sell our hot sauce. But we've tried exploring a lot of different possibilities and just sort of ran into a wall every way, except for just eventually
getting our own facility,
getting
a license. So,
and again, it doesn't need to be very big, and it could be, we've gone back and forth. We do have a little bit of extra space in the office space of our guest house that we just mentioned. So if, someday maybe it would be a possibility to do a small hot sauce production, 1 room commercial kitchen, like an office sized commercial kitchen, is a possibility. Or the thing about renting a place is there's places on the island that you can rent for commercial facilities, but they're all
unrenovated.
So it would be renting a place and then building our own commercial kitchen, and that just seems, that's not what we want to do. So it's a hurdle. We have not found a solution yet, but we're not going to give up. So at some point we'll figure out a way to get a commercial kitchen. And we figure it out this winter if we have the funds. We just don't have the money. We've invested so much into the guest house and the honeybees that we can't invest any. We don't have any more to invest at this point. So, but we will eventually.
Yeah.
Someday you will see Benton Homestead hot sauce all throughout Japan. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay. Okay, that's all of those questions. And then we can jump back to Julie, you sent one in earlier. You sent a question in on our YouTube post asking about community service programs. So you hear in Japan, when you move to places, sometimes you are automatically expected to be part of local community service, especially in the countryside. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Do you want to start? You want me to start? I'll do it.
Yeah.
So in our neighborhood specifically, we have 1 or 2 annual cleanup days, and it involves, it's not like you hear about other parts of Japan where everybody gets together and you go and you clean up a certain area, you clean up a part of the neighborhood. And in our neighborhood, we don't have that specifically. We have an annual cleanup day, but everybody just sort of uses that day to work on their own properties, and you just get your area looking really nice by a certain day. So the first year, that day was rained out, and then last year, everybody was just weed whacking on the same day, and then we just got everything looking really pretty on one day, and it was like right before a big festival or something. So they wanted the neighborhood looking nice by a certain day. So that was not like an organized community event. That was just like your own personal responsibility for your own property. However, we do have a kind of a funny story from some friends of ours, some new friends who have purchased a property here on the island. They purchased 2 properties, and they are, we're not sure. I don't want to say their names, of course. I don't want to give away any personal information, but they might be coming here full time, or they might be sort of back and forth. They haven't decided yet. But so when they moved into their neighborhood, which is on the same island, but each neighborhood operates many aspects of the neighborhood differently. Their neighborhood has a community group for the garbage, right? So the community garbage group is ran by the youngest member of the community group. So they were advised by their neighbor when they said, hey, we bought this property, we're going to start renovating this property. How do we take care of garbage? The neighbor said, you probably don't want to join the neighborhood's garbage committee because you would automatically have to become the president of the committee because you would be the youngest members. So they did end up figuring it out, and they were allowed to have garbage pickup in their neighborhood without having to become the presidents of their garbage committee. But I thought that was a pretty funny story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Silly.
Yeah.
So anything else like that?
I don't know. What do you think? Do you have? I mean, tell your story with the beekeeping committee.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
Well, you're pretty much the youngest guy there too, right?
No, there's some guys that are. I mean.
Okay, never mind. I thought you had a funny story. So another question that we have is from CB, who wants to know about visa requirements for workaway and woofing, which is, if you're not familiar with woofing, I think it's willing workers on organic farms. And then workaway is another program where you volunteer. Both of them are volunteer programs. However...
So yeah, you don't need a work visa if you're volunteering.
Yeah, I was getting to that. So they're both volunteering programs, but you do get something in exchange. However, it's not money. You're not getting a paycheck. So you're in exchange for workaway or woofing. It's different with each farm who is part of the program. They're going to put out an advertisement, or they're going to make a post or whatever for their farm that says, if you come to my farm and you work, say, 5 hours a day, you can stay in this accommodation, which might be nice, it might be not nice, it might be rustic, it might be, whatever. They have an accommodation, and then they usually feed you 1 or 2 meals. We looked into it. We didn't do it ourselves. And then we had Vicky and Nils, who were traveling full-time doing volunteer work on farms. They came and stayed with us for a few days, which was great. Was that last year, or was that earlier this year?
Last year.
It was last fall. Yeah. So they were traveling full-time via Workaway and Woofing and various websites. And we actually had an interview with them and how they got started doing that full-time. So that's when I learned the most about woofing and workaway. But we also looked into it initially in Mexico, and when we first got to Japan, we thought, well, if we don't settle on Ōmishima immediately, which we did end up buying a house and starting the business process immediately, but we thought we might, in the very beginning, before we settled down, do some sort of workaway here to see different areas or see different farms and that sort of thing. Generally, they want you to stay for at least a couple of weeks. I don't know if I'm sure shorter ones are possible, but they have to train you, and you are actually working on the farm, but you're just not getting a paycheck. And I think it is, to a tiny amount, it's like a gray area. I was talking with one person, can't remember when that was. This was a couple of years ago, and she was like, would you ever need a pet sitter at your house? And I was like, well, yeah, because, we did full-time pet sitting in Mexico, and that was an amazing way to travel. And I was like, I'm sure we will at some point, but for the foreseeable future, we're never going to be going on vacation. And then, we just had a wasp come in. He left. And then she wrote me back a couple of months later, and she's like, you know what? I decided that I'm not comfortable doing pet sitting in Japan just because I'm not sure how the visa works. But it's my understanding, based on people that I've spoken with, and based on reading the fine print of, the working holiday visa requirements and that sort of thing, simply because you're not receiving a paycheck, it is a legal way to volunteer in Japan. So that's my understanding of it. Does anyone in the chat maybe have any sort of experience with workaway or woofing, either in Japan or in other countries? That would be a good conversation to have, because I don't have much more experience than what I just said. So that would be my answer to the question, unless anyone else has more to add to that. And that is all of our questions. We're at about 15 minutes left. So that was a lot. How do you feel? This was a fun chat. This was another fun one. We had Hong Kong snoozing in the back the whole time. I thought this was gonna be a chaotic one with the cats running around, but he actually decided this was nap time. Marcus says, we were told just not to mention it when you come in or out, but that it was okay. And that's in regard to woofing or workaway. Yeah, I can't remember where it was that you did your workaway, but yeah, I forgot that you had done that. I think you've probably told me about it a couple of times, and I just forgot about that. We only did one stay, so it was not an extensive, like a long workaway trip. That's cool. That's cool you got to experience that. So what should we chat about for the last little bit here?
I don't know. Well, Imabari City does offer, they offer a subsidy for us to hire someone for just a year, but it's like I think it's $8,000, but
that's for farms,
for
right?
farming, yeah. But that's woofing. But so we wouldn't be able to sponsor someone's visa for that. And Yamanashi.
Marcus's workaway was on a farm in Yamanashi.
Yeah, we're working up towards hiring people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna try and cut down some of Danny's work with cleaning the guest house. That's the easiest thing that we can probably do.
That would probably be the easiest to hire someone for. Yeah, and it's just hiring a part-time cleaning person to free up my time to do more.
I think as soon as we get 3 years, we can probably just do that.
Possibly.
Because we're just worried about showing a profit is the whole thing, It's sort of this catch-22 that we're involved in, and yeah, as soon as we can get to where we don't have to worry about showing a profit so much, which, because once we get 3 years, we'll have 3 years. We won't have to do this thing every year. And so once we get that, yeah, I think we can probably...
Yeah. A 1-year time scale is just such a short time to prove, that your business is successful, because we're obviously generating income. Like, our business is doing good. The guest house is staying solid. The honey sales are, we've only finished harvest a month ago, but honey sales are promising to where I would be confident that we're going to sell the remaining 1,000 jars of honey this year, probably by the winter. But as far as immigration is concerned, what they want to see is that you make more than you spend, and we're still a young business, so we're still investing in some infrastructure. And we were talking the other day, and I think that's the reason. We had the 6-month startup visa, and then we graduated and completed that program and went to the 1-year business manager visa, and then at our first renewal we only got another 1 year. And you always get 1 year to start, and then you could get 1, 3, or 5 after that. And of course they don't tell you. It's not a very transparent process for why they make the decisions that they make. So we got 1 year, but what we think is because we were still investing in our business at that time, so it was only, we had 6 months for the startup visa, and we invested in the guest house, but then our plan was to just slowly keep doing additional improvements of the guest house. We called that phase 2, and then we still had the whole honeybee and farming side of our business to build during that first year. So yes, we had income coming in from the guest house and the honey, but then we were still investing. So our last visa renewal, our business had income, but we spent more than we made, and so we suspect that that's why we only got 1 year. And so we're really, really hoping this year. We've been looking at our financials, and we won't find out for sure until after everything is calculated and all of that. But we think we're really close to, because we've still been investing. We had more honey equipment to buy this year. We did more work at the guest house. We installed another air conditioning. We're still investing in our young business. As the funds come in, we're putting it back into the business, and the funds come in, and we're putting it back into the business. And so it's going to be pretty close. It's going to be pretty close this year. So after July 31st, that's when the deadline is. And so at that point, our accountant will start calculating some things for us and come up with our fiscal year paperwork. But we are right at the line, whether or not we will have spent more than we made this. So we're just gonna hope for the best. We're gonna hope for the best. We are really, really, really hoping for 3 years this time. So it just takes the pressure off. Just takes the pressure off.
Yeah, we're not worried about our business failing,
No.
We're not worried about all the bees dying or anything like that.
No.
We're basically, everything's doing great. The only question is immigration. And
yeah.
and even with immigration, it's not like they're gonna kick us out of the country. That's the feeling we have. It's just it's just a real hassle having to do it every year.
Yeah. It's just stress, it's just stress and pressure, and then the expense of our immigration lawyer, because he does a lot of work, and his work is valuable, and so that is another expense for us. And then just the waiting, and it's just a lot, I'm a very prepare for the worst case scenario kind of mentality, and I am not worried that they're going to not renew our visa. I really think that's not really a possibility. But I think the worst case scenario would just be to just get 1 year at a time. 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, and just have to live like that until we can apply for permanent residency. That would be my absolute worst case nightmare scenario, would just be getting 1 year over and over. So yeah, like Evan said, we're not worried about the business failing. It's proven. It's a successful business. It's not wildly successful. We're not getting rich, but it is. It's successful. It's sustaining, and it's gradually increasing as it should.
Yeah.
So
and it's a growth industry. I mean, everything points to just, I mean, the old saying is do something good, do something better. What is it? Do something better than everyone else, do it cheaper than everyone else, or do it somewhere no one else is doing it. And we're basically doing something where no one else is doing it. And I mean, the global. I would really like to talk about more about like the global like geopolitics that I spend a lot of time looking at, and but that is changing. The global system is going away and is being replaced by more regional factors, more regional power structures. So we're looking at a thing where like right now we get this honey from China. Like we don't. I've bought it before, but it's terrible.
It's corn syrup. Yeah, it's not even honey.
I mean, so Japan does not. There's a big scandal this year. I think I wanted to talk about it in our last live stream. I don't remember if I did, about Japan is not able to produce its own rice anymore. Like, so there's, Japan's economy is sort of like going down like this, and one of those like threshold points is where it gets to the point where it's not making enough rice to feed itself, where that's where everyone suddenly realizes how terrible it is, And so we met a guy when we went to go visit Cocolencho. He's got a friend who's an American who's growing rice there. A young guy, pretty interesting story, interesting guy to talk to. But anyway, like agriculture is for sure a growing industry, and people are getting more into like the health, like taking health into their own hands, and so honey is being viewed as a health product. I've got a batch of propolis sitting there in our kitchen right now, like turning into an elixir. So that's another venue for sales we're thinking about. But I mean, anything you want to do regionally, I think is going to be, is going to be a great avenue for sales. And I think the biggest thing is like organization, like because we have this massive global supply chain that has enabled all of this growth that we've been seeing since the end of World War II, and that's what's going away. And so the people who are going to be able to step in and solve these problems for other people, which is what I basically want to do. I want to take like the vertical integrated approach of like finding a sales channel for farmers. So like creating more of an incentive for them to grow something and then sell it to me and then turn it into a product that's going right to the consumer that we can like sell nationwide.
So in our case, that would be like hiring farmers to produce a field of peppers that we then are guaranteed to purchase their entire crop and turn the whole crop into hot sauce.
Yeah, and when we were talking to the bank, because we're talking to the bank about getting a bank loan for the roof for the retro shop, banking works a lot differently in Japan, and I can't even get into it right now. But we realized, hey, we could get financing to where we could get the bank to pay that farmer up front and secure that loan, so that we're not on the hook for purchasing that crop. So usually farmers, the thing about farming is all your investment is at the beginning and all your payout is at the end. So it's inherently a very risky thing. But if you can move the payout to the beginning, then that eliminates a lot of the risk. And that would help.
Like we've got a couple comments coming in, and one of them is from Big Chuck's Ostrich Farm, which is a fantastic name. And he says, very interesting topic about business profits. My wife and I are looking to move our farm to Japan in 5-ish years. There's a lot to consider to make the first year successful. And so what you're talking about is paying farmers in advance for their crop that's going to come later. And that is one possible way to guarantee that your first year farming would be successful. If you could get a farming contract that pays you ahead of time, and then you have to guarantee your crop is successful.
And for me, I'm just I have a real authority problem. That's why I work for myself. And so it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around the idea of anybody else wanting to work for another person. And the more I work for myself, the more I remember like, oh, weekends, remember those? Those were nice. So the more I kind of understand why it's good to work on futures trading. Yeah. Well,
Julie's got a bunch of good comments. We got to read through these because they're all relevant to what we're saying. So first one is, in one accounting method, the investment is depreciated over a number of years, so not counted as an expense right away. That way you show profit on current sales.
Yeah,
but your local accountant will know this. Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about at our last meeting. So they're working at ways to, they're thinking about how can this year look the absolute best for us for our application. And it's not like they're fudging numbers, but it's just like they're using our actual data, but they're finding the best way to present that and use that for us. So they are already thinking about that. Our accountant and our business consultant are friends, and so they are working together to give us the best fiscal year paperwork possible based on what we've done over the last 12 months. And then she also said, Julie, you've always got great comments. She said, yes, the only way to get actual honey instead of corn syrup where she is to buy directly at the farmer's market. That was our experience in Oregon too, in Louisiana. You gotta buy direct for sure. And Big Chuck's ostrich farm. Are you bringing ostriches to Japan? Because that would be awesome.
Sick.
Please tell us about your farm. We can go over.
We'll buy ostrich meat for you from our.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock, but we can go over a couple minutes because I just really want to hear about Big Chuck's ostrich farm.
Yeah, and futures trading. So this thing that we're talking about, financing. Financing the crops before they're in can be very risky. In the case of, for example, this year's honeybee losses in North America were catastrophic, and that also affects the almond crop in California. So this has been going on, and the almond industry has been driving all this growth in California for the last 30 years, and it's been driving massive growth in the honeybee industry because they bring in honeybees from all over the country. And so there's financing for that, and so what has happened is since some honeybee producers have lost all of their bees this year, and we're talking millions of
80
bees,
to 100% bee
something
losses.
like $100 million was lost in the bee industry, and so that's going to cause, those guys are going bankrupt, which is going to cause almond farms to go bankrupt. So it's going to have massive knock-on effects in the industry, and just the financing is one aspect of that. There are people who are on the hook for that money are toast, basically. So
okay, I got two things to say real quick. So Big Chuck says, yes, we will be attempting to bring ostrich to Japan. There are a few ostrich farms already in Japan run by Japanese, but we would want to bring our own. Where are you coming to Japan from? Where are your ostriches from? I'm very interested in breeding our ostrich with the ostrich already present in Japan. In the U.S., it's hard to find ostrich without inbred family lines. This is fascinating, and I want to know how you would import ostrich. Do you bring them in as eggs? Obviously, would that be, is that a dumb question? Because I tell you why I'm very interested in this is because of chicken breeds. Another thing that we plan to do that's been on our list that we have land for, we just need to build our chicken paradise, is raising chickens for eggs and pets. And there are some Japanese breeds that I would like to raise, but there are also a lot of European and American breeds that I have not seen anyone with here in Japan. So I would also like to, I don't know if I have to import eggs or how that works. I imagine it's really, really, really complicated. Have you looked at all into how you would get your ostriches into Japan? And how does that relate to possibly also getting some other chicken breeds into Japan? So we'll go over by a couple minutes so Big Chuck can answer that question. And the second thing I wanted to say is in relation to what you were saying about the futures and the farming, the futures trading with the farming. So it's risky because you're getting paid in advance and then you have to produce that crop. It is, I know I relate a lot of things to photography, but that is similar to a wedding photographer because you 100% get paid the entire balance in advance, and then that has to go into your savings account, your holding account that you can't touch, because for one thing, weddings are booked up to 2 years in advance, and at any point, depending on how your contract is set up, they could change the date, they could reschedule, they could cancel. and then need to be refunded some or all of that amount. And then there's also the risk of, well, you have to actually not be sick that day. You have to make it there no matter what. You have to hire a second shooter. You have to be there, and then you have to produce high quality images for them. So in a way, the future's crop farming is similar to wedding photography.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it is risky, but if you were able to take that income in advance, stash it away in a holding account, just on the off chance that you're not able to produce that crop, or whatever happens if you can't produce that crop, but then it would show profit your first year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting to me. I don't know if that's interesting to anyone else. So Big Chuck says, we could attempt to bring eggs, but I've also been researching bringing 2 breeding trios. So for that research, I've been looking at how racehorses are moved from the US to the EU. Very interesting.
So I guess you haven't looked at Japan yet specifically, which is fair, but I think it's going to change. And I want to know how long the quarantine period is for.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about people bringing their pets in. And we just recently, one of our consulting clients talked about bringing she gave me the whole rundown of everything it took to bring their pet dogs in. It was a complicated process, but they successfully did it. So I'm sure it's complicated. He says, for horses, I found the cost is roughly $10,000 per horse to fly them across the Atlantic, so it would be very costly to bring our ostriches. Wow. And Julie says crops are different because they are commodities and photography is a service. That's true. That's also true.
And Hummingbird's got a question about buying farmland here. How do we search for and lease farmland? Really just word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't actually own any farmland yet because you need to get you need to have a farmer's license, which is not something like there's a test you just have to meet before there's a farming committee just composed of local farmers, and you have to just make your case. So it's not at all strenuous, but basically you have to convince people in person that you should be allowed to purchase farmland.
So we are going to attempt to purchase farmland because our business is an agricultural business, and so we've been told that we can purchase farmland. But right now, the land that we own and the land that we're farming on, so our honeybees are on forest land and that we own, and our other apiary is on farmland that we lease, and that was word of mouth. So we don't own any farmland yet, but spoiler alert, I can't say that yet, no. But at some point we are looking into purchasing farmland via our business, which is an agricultural business. But we have seen others purchase farmland. Real Rural Japan has a Patreon where he has a lot of videos outlining the entire farmland purchase process. So check out Real Rural Japan's farming videos. He has way more farming experience than we do and experience purchasing farmland, and so he's sort of outlined the process in a bunch of his videos. So I think that's it. We're over time, and we've wrapped up all the questions. So
and it's hot, so
it is really hot. We got to turn the fan on. Poncon melted over there. Sorry, Poncon. But thanks for joining us, guys. Let us know if you still like these monthly chats. You guys want us to keep doing it? Do you want us to continue doing a specific topic each month? Should we just keep it more just like every month is just general questions? I'd love to hear feedback about what you like or what you don't like. Is the time good? Is the length of time good? Please let me know. So this is the 7th month in a row that we've been doing it. And any feedback is very much appreciated because we are still new to this and we only want to do what you guys want from us. So let me know what you think about, topics, time slot, length of time, anything, format, whatever. So just feel free to send some feedback either, probably not in the chat, because I think the chat usually disappears when we publish the live stream. Sometimes the chat shows up and sometimes it doesn't. So feel free to leave a comment somewhere that's going to be more permanent. Marcus says, time for a walk to the vending machine for a beer. Not yet, Marcus. It's only 10 a.m. and I've got to go paint 15 hornet traps. So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for the super chats. This is the most, as far as profit goes, this was the best live stream yet. So thank you so much for that right here at the end of our fiscal year. Honestly, really, really appreciate that, because every little bit helps. So thank you so much. And just thanks for keeping the conversation going, guys.
Thanks a lot, y'all.
Thank you so much. We'll see y'all next month.